All right, ladies and gentlemen, lo and behold, look what we have here. Something of a synchronicity for myself, as I've been thinking about this topic quite a lot in my life lately, given due to the fact that I've essentially had something of a realization as of late that everybody acts like a predator. Right? And, it's just hilarious that someone was complaining to me when I was discussing these topics to them personally that I'm not a psychologist. Maybe I should go study psychology. And the universe is just, my story is the gift that keeps on giving. Well, we hope you get a video. Not a fucking day later, as this shit usually goes, not a fucking day later. The psychology of predators. So, not that that person's ever gonna hear this. But to that one person, I'm going to get educated in psychology. And I've already been anyway. It's already something I've been studying for the longest of times. And we're back with another video reacting to psychology with Dr. Anna. And we're going to be talking about predators. So, something that stuck out to me at the beginning of the video, off riff. Well, she goes on to say how she wants to talk about perhaps a specific kind of predator, but I don't think the focus is actually right to be focusing on who to avoid, because the focus is rather knowing what you should not emulate, right? It should be knowing what you should not emulate, because we are all predators in our own way. And I will illustrate to you how that is in just a moment. But first, let's go over what she first said. Let's play the audio here just so we get a refresher on what would she say?
A lion for hunting a zebra. They're not doing it out of malice or survival. Like, you don't blame a lion for hunting a zebra. They're not doing it out of malice, they're doing it because they need to eat, right? But when we talk about a human predator, we're talking about someone who hunts for sport or fun rather than survival or necessity. They're not being aggressive to survive, like say someone taking part in crime because they don't think they have another way to pay the bills. Rather, they're being aggressive because it's fun to them. There's something very sadistic about it. They've turned other people's pain into a sport. So today, that's what we're going to be talking about.
Alright, so off riff, I immediately have a problem with this assumption because we kind of seem to be conflating what a literal sadist is with what the predatory psychology that is operating behind the psychology of the sadist, right? And I think what's happening here in this video is that she's essentially trying to pin people who are a bit more sadistic as being the archetype for predatory behavior, but it's just simply not true. As she stated, by the way, a predator hunts for weaknesses, right? They hunt for weaknesses. And whether you realize it or not, human beings themselves, we naturally hunt for those weaknesses ourselves. How is that so? They pick on the vulnerable. How does this apply to you? Think about your own life. How are you being a predator? And I will illustrate to you how that is. So real love is not easy. Alright? That's just a fact. Real love is not easy. It will be difficult. It will be hard. It will present challenges. And so when individuals go about their days with modern dating, they tend to go with the relation or the person who is giving them the good feelings immediately. The person who is glowing the most, that is going to be optimal for them, right? And what you don't realize is that what you are perceiving as maybe choosing signals or like green flags, go in. What you don't realize is that you are engaging in predatory psychology yourself. But you are preying on yourself because you are actively seeking that which you are weak against, right? Whether it's fame, whether it's status, whether it's wealth, whether it's someone's looks, their body, it doesn't matter. Whatever the situation is, that immediate, like, obvious transactional benefit that you see in people, that is predatory behavior. And that is how a lot of people go about dating in the modern world in 2026. They pick on the vulnerable. This is a natural thing. This comes from a survival of the fittest, dog eats dog world, right? You can see how that predator psychology, therefore, is just, it's inherent in everybody, not just child predators. In fact, if you want to get rid of child predators, as I am doing, as we are protecting the children, which is the kingdom of God, who it is for, then it would stand to reason we have to totally annihilate this predator psychology in all of its forms. And I do stress all of its forms. So now we go on to the next step. They lack empathy. Now, what does this mean? Where do you lack empathy in your own life? Now, we could ask the question of who do you lack empathy for outside, but since we're talking about predatory behavior and love, let's talk about inside, right? Let's talk about where are you lacking empathy for yourself on the inside? What are you not thinking about? What are you not contending with? What are you repressing, shoving to the side that you just think isn't you, right? Because it's an unintegrated aspect of you, whatever it is you're shoving away. And, you know, I can't, because you can tell by this list that she curated that she's more identifying a sadist archetype more than a predator archetype, right? Because the lack of empathy can definitely be situational. But on point number 3, it becomes clear. They enjoy making others suffer. Now, that is just not a trait of a predator. Because as we say, in the wild, these animals have no feelings. They're just doing it out of a need for survival when they hunt for these weaknesses, right? So to say that an animal would enjoy killing another animal, it would be a bit much, right? So similarly, to say that people, when they engage in these relationships, that people fail, because I think this assumption we enjoy making others suffer, again, it's wrong to tie that to a predator archetype, right? It's more so a sadist. Now, point number 4, they objectify and dehumanize their prey. Again, something we can outline very clearly, how people objectify others, and I think we need to illustrate how women love to do this in particular. We've talked to death how men do this, we've talked to death about the man's sins, and that's all fine and good, that's wonderful. We've done a lot to elevate that nature to where it belongs, but now we gotta talk about the females, the opposite sex, okay? And a lot of them like to, this is why people, like to, I lost my train of thought, 1 second. This is why people say comparison is the thief of joy. Because women like to compare, and they like to kind of objectify the relationships they're in, their men, right? They'll be like, oh, my man is such and such, he does this, he's so good, and it's really just a social power game, and you end up objectifying the person you're with, and you're not really seeing them for the person they are. You're just seeing them for a bunch of checklists that you have, so that you can like basically flaunt it to other women, right? It might even be like some form of jealousy, and so. But again, we should also recognize again that like any woman who engages in that type of behavior, like, they are predators. They are engaging in predatory psychology. You can be sure to know that whatever relationship they're in, and if they gotta gloat about it, flaunt about it, compare and all that good stuff, you know that it's predatory in nature, and that it won't actually lead to real love, no matter how long it lasts, whether it's 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the line. At some point it will fail because it's just not real. And so now we go on to point number 5. They are deceptive. And to this, I would ask you, The deceptions are quite obvious. Whatever you felt during this video at any point during the conversation that you felt that I was wrong, or that, like, I'm somehow, you know, being sexist or just mean, just understand that that's a deception, that you're lying to yourself. And whatever you're using to justify your actions, your choices, right? Like if you're viewing the relationship on the basis of a transaction of feelings, right? Because people go by their feelings these days a lot, and they're just going to go for what immediately makes them feel good. And so you're essentially transacting, you're preying upon that feeling, right? And oftentimes people will just simply lie to themselves. They'll just say, oh no, I like him for any other reason. Or I like her for any other reason that isn't why I didn't initially go into it. And so that's the deception. That's the play. And number 6, we can avoid that one. It doesn't. I'm not really seeing it, but maybe someone else can enlighten me on how that behavior could manifest. But on point number 7, they seek power. Yep, that is a natural Machiavellian play. It is simply social power, because, you know, this world, unfortunately, is the way it's been designed, is that, as they say, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, right? And so this game that we currently play operates on a lot of money games and status games, which completely obfuscates and ruins the clarity that we should be having on these issues. That's why they say money corrupts, or absolute power corrupts absolutely, and I think money corrupts as well. Money just inevitably corrupts. At least in the system as we know it as, right? It should be there's enough money to go around the world. There's enough product to go around the world, and we're entering an era where that's very feasible with industrialization. So again, these old ways of just gaining power are just still affecting our minds and our psychology in daily life. So yeah, there were some points in this video that I kind of just felt were a little off, psychologically speaking, on what's really going on, and I wanted to correct those, and we've done that here today. And yeah, everyone is still operating under a survival of the fittest mindset, and you got to recognize how it is that you are falling prey to yourself. Like, you are your own worst enemy. You are self-sabotaging, as they say in this psychological space. Self-sabotaging. I'm exposing to you how you are self-sabotaging yourself from actually treating people the right way and treating yourself the right way. Yeah, that about wraps up this video, everyone. I'll see you next time.